Okay, looks like it's go time. So I guess the first thing is calling the meeting to order. So if everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chris Buckman. Here. Brandon Earl. Here. Andrea Kreifels.
Here.
Jason Newberry.
Here.
Deanna Garber.
Here.
Tom Henning. Here. Pat Zika.
Here.
Okay, first thing we have is the adoption of the agenda. I guess adoption of the agenda. Yep.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All those in, actually, since Pat's attending by phone, let's do roll call votes on everything tonight. So,
Chris Buckman.
Yes.
Brandon Earl.
Yes.
Andrea Kreifels.
Yes.
Jason Newberry.
yes,
Deanna Garber.
Yes.
Tom Henning.
Yes.
Pat Zika.
Yes.
okay. Recognition patrons and staff item, that'll be signed up, okay? So moving on to discussion items, so, kind of the main reason for this meeting tonight is the job description policy, piece. Pat brought this actually to my attention, that the verbiage in the current policy manual, says that if there's a change to the job description, the board needs to approve it. So that's kind of the reason we're here, is just to kind of discuss that and, give Adam a little bit of direction. So,
Yes, that came up as a policy that needed discussed by the board. And traditionally that, we also have our policy committee, so that'll be in discussion later on the function of the policy committee, but it was requested this be discussed by the board. And so in my investigation, when this came up, this is a policy that has not been in district practice for as long as anybody can remember. So we do not currently have any job descriptions. What happens traditionally is we have a job that comes up and the business office works with our employees to help create that job description, and then that goes out to as part of an advertisement and also to guide the employee as upon hiring. And so that is something that has not happened. So this for as long as anybody knows. So this is up for discussion tonight as to how the board wants that process to look moving forward. And if the board would like us to follow past practice, which is not the way policy reads, or if we want to change the policy, or if we want to put all job descriptions together and bring those to the board in the future, which would also be a possibility. So it's just kind of up for discussion this evening.
thoughts?
Me, I'd like to see the job descriptions, because there's a lot of them that I'm not real sure exactly what it entails, what they have to have in order to get the job. And
Okay.
so that would just be me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has to be on every one, but I think it's not a bad idea to see the job description, so at least we know what they're doing.
Sure.
I'm personally kind of the opposite of that. I really don't personally need to see the job description. I know if you're gonna be hired as a teacher, you know what you're gonna be up against, administration. Now, if there's a different job, that's usually already posted with the job listing. So I'm kind of like, if we're not gonna follow, we either need to do away with the policy or follow the policy. I'm kind of leaning myself towards doing away with it.
Has there been any issues with it?
Not that I'm.
Well, can I say that
go
while we
ahead.
talk now?
Go ahead, Pat.
Okay. I just asked Adam, for a job description of what has been done with that job, because we just created it 2 years ago, or just a little bit less possibly. He said that nobody down there could find one, but he wanted to change it anyway. When we just created this job, I just felt like we needed some kind of a description of exactly what it was. I contacted several people I know in different schools and a couple school board members in different districts, and they have A couple of them don't have anything, two people I talked to have just like a handbook of job descriptions, and when they create, this bothered me when we added interventionists. Totally new job, totally, nobody really knew, what that job entailed. And I brought that up at that time, but Dr. Lightning just kind of thought I was talking Chinese, I think. And, those were 3 jobs, just totally new, totally created, that, nobody knew anything about. That's where the policy would have helped if we could have had a job description of what those were. I feel like if it's in the policy book, why not have a job description? Because I just found out tonight at the track meet that there's kind of going to be a new special education job at the high school. But the middle school has that type of a person, but the high school hasn't had one before. So that's another kind of a thing that it'd be nice to know, who are we replacing with what, and is it a new job? So that's my take for part of it.
Okay. Brandon, you were starting to say something?
No, I just didn't know if there's any issues of. If there were any issues, I don't know.
Yeah, well, as far as how this got started, like Pat said, she came to me about the communications specialist degree, position. Shelby was hired 3 years ago. She's finishing her 3rd year, and at that time, we canceled an assistant superintendent position that was there at the time in order to pull that on, because I felt like that I was coming on as superintendent. I felt like that was important. We did have a job description back then, but we have different people in the business office now that was doing that job at the time. So my guess is that that job description is now on that person's account that is no longer accessible. And so what I was telling Pat is that Shelby has laid kind of the foundation for that job, but I see that job growing from that foundation that was built. And so I am perfectly okay with adjusting that job description at this point. But as far as job descriptions, I'm comfortable with whatever I want the board to feel informed, and any information that doesn't come forward is never on purpose. It's a slip through the cracks situation. So, and I don't want that to happen. If that would help that system, then that'd be fine. I just want the board to be aware of what we do currently, which is essentially put that together. We post it with the position and. Keep that job description, but we have not been sending it to the board. This policy is not something that has come to attention before. So looking it up now and seeing what it says, it's obviously a conflict with what we do.
My opinion is, job descriptions are great, but job descriptions are usually only accurate the day that they were printed, because they're such a rapidly changing environment that we're in anymore. I guarantee you the job description that I have for my position is not accurate. I've got additional duties added to me, and it's not spelled out in that job description. So I think it's a good starting point. I kind of echo what Tom said as far as I think new positions, absolutely. We need to be aware of what this new position's created for and what we're doing moving forward. I don't know that I need to see every job description and how it's being tweaked to meet the needs of the district. Because I hope that it's being tweaked to meet the needs of the district every day. So I'm kind of leaning towards I don't really need to send, but just my opinion.
From what I hear, and there has been communication that we're just not being transparent anymore, and have a communication person. It would just be nice to know, do they communicate, who do they communicate with? I just would like a job description, and I totally agree when you add a brand new position. We should know what that is before it's even added. When we had those 3 interventionists, that should have been discussed by the board. It's a great thing. It was like kind of a new buzzword. It's a new position. It was great, but to not really know what we were approving at that time. And it is a board policy, so Tom, I know you're all about policy, you won't even put gas in, you won't even turn your car off at Dillon's getting gas, because there's no policy pasted up there that says you have to turn your car off. So, are we following policy or are we not?
Well, I think you actually replied to that comment that said not everything has to have a policy, so I'm agreeing with you on that.
Well, but this is a written policy, so.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we strike this policy from the policy book.
Are we gonna go through then and strike everything that we don't? Because this book could be cut in
Sure.
half or
So-
a quarter if we wanted to take out everything we don't follow. And I know, Jason, you and I've talked before about, what a school board member, what our jobs are. And one of the first things that you say, you know, and I come to, you know, I see that too now, is to make sure, to make policy and make sure policy is being followed. So I'm not trying to open a can of worms.
Okay. Well, we got a motion on the floor, so, I would entertain a second or the motion will die.
Oops.
Okay, hearing no second, the motion dies.
I feel like job descriptions are really great, especially for positions that aren't teachers, when they're, you know, employed outside of that negotiated agreement. I feel like it's a standard you can hold them to at their annual review, and that's when it should be updated, as at the annual review. I also feel like we don't need to see those updates, but I agree that we probably should review any new positions that are being come in.
My car shut off, so I kind of missed a little bit here. I just thought I'd share that.
Okay,
I don't think we need on everything. I mean, I think if there's a new position that maybe comes up, let us know that, but some of them, we're gonna be flooded with everything that's coming up. You guys are doing your job, we're just here to help guide, so. I don't wanna necessarily micromanage, but it'd be nice, it'd be okay to see them, but I don't think we need to detail down to the PE teacher and everything. I think just maybe a new position comes up, we need to see. I don't know, I mean, thoughts?
I kind of like, I agree with the teacher part, we don't need that, but I kind of like what she said about, maybe like a book of the job descriptions, and then not necessarily like us having to go through them, but if they're there if needed. I mean, that, I don't know how that would work, but that way we have job descriptions for not the teachers, but then, and add any as we go. I'm okay with that.
My problem with job descriptions is it can go both ways, cause then people can sometimes hide, like Jason has every right to say, well, I wasn't hired for that, it's on my job description.
Yeah.
My belief has always been, your job is to give the company you're working for an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. That's it. I think there may be guidelines, but to say this is a job description, that can bite you, that could come back.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of neutral on it. I see it from both sides.
I'm kind of agreeing with Brandon, we don't wanna just be overloaded. I agree with what you're saying, we need to have an outline, or this person's gonna be doing this, and if we add to that, that's fine. I don't know that we need to technically update the description every time we throw a new task at them.
No.
And then if
Well, like
a
Andrea
person,
said, every year,
Yeah,
updated as with the.
and a person in a job they might be beneficial in another area, but then the next person in that job might not, so then it's kind of a constant.
Or you can do a generic one and include some things plus other things, you can kind of, so it's not just tied to that, there's other things that could come up that they would have to be part of, but you would know that more than any of us would, so.
Like you said, it'd be a guideline, but then it's including, but not just that.
Mm-hmm.
Things could be added, which it always happens, and that's what I was saying at the beginning. I don't need every job description, but I think like the new, or even like the AD, what's the requirements for the athletic director? I don't know them all.
Yeah.
Do they need an admin degree or not, or
We-
something
we-
like that.
Yes, for us, we have put that there.
Yeah. So-
The state though, the state actually, you can also have like a sports management
Yeah.
degree or something like
But
that.
it's just a guideline.
Yeah.
I mean, cause it's ever changing,
Sure.
so. Especially on new positions, that's where.
So,
Yeah.
with all that being said, I mean, kind of the reason for us being here tonight is to address the policy as it pertains to this particular position right now. The job description, I think Adam is wanting to change the job description, wanting to add, additional
Yeah, we
duties.
already have, we have the
Correct.
job description, we have it posted with the job. And like for one thing, when Shelby first started, she was not board clerk. So now it's, now it's communications board clerk, and so
Right.
it's just like you guys are saying, it adjusts as it goes, so it is what
But
it
in the
is.
process of doing that, we don't wanna breach policy.
Right.
So, if it's something that we think is not needed, then maybe we need to either change the policy, do away with the policy, modify the policy in a way that we feel that it meets our need better. I'm open to any or all of the above.
I think that can be accomplished with 2 words, so I would make a motion that we delete the words "or revise" from the current policy, and then we'll be compliant.
Does that make sense to everybody?
So what would it say?
So, yeah, can you read the,
So then it would say the superintendent shall develop a job description for each category of employee. After board approval of any new job description, they will be deemed in effect, shall be filed with the clerk, and may be published in handbooks.
That was beautiful. I like that.
okay,
I'll
got-
second
we
the
got a
motion.
motion and a
Is that a
second.
motion? Or do
Yeah,
you just?
yeah.
Yeah, nope, she made a motion.
Wait.
Yeah, it's open for discussion.
So Adam is going to change what was initially considered for that job, so. Is that considered a new position if you're changing it?
Not in my mind, it's not. It's not a new position.
You're just adding, you're updating.
You're revising it.
Okay,
But he won't need our approval to revise it, just if we added a new one.
Right.
That's correct.
sure, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that sounds good.
obviously still open for discussion, but we do have a motion and a second on the floor. But if there's any other discussion that we need to have, now's the time to have it. Okay, hearing none, I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote.
Chris Buckman,
Yes.
Brandon Earl,
Yes.
Andrea Kreifels,
Yes.
Jason Newberry,
Yes.
Deanna Garber,
Yes.
Tom Henning,
Yes.
Pat Zika.
Yes,
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Good discussion.
So the only problem with this now is from here on out, every time KASB pushes these updates, this is a KASB update, we're gonna have to manually find that one, pull it out, mark it out.
I'd
So
like to see how KSB updates these things, because, like I said, there's so many, how do they know? I mean, it's just funny, we let them update everything and then we don't even know what's in it.
Well, I think most of their updates are statutory type updates, right, Adam?
Yeah,
I
and
mean, it's
legal,
stuff,
Yeah.
court cases and.
legal changes coming from the state down is what they're trying to address and keep us out of trouble with.
Right.
Okay, the next item on discussion items is the policy committee as a whole. There's been a little discussion lately at some board meetings as far as roles, responsibilities of committees kind of in general. If we're gonna bring stuff back to the board to review as a whole, then I guess my personal opinion is what's the purpose of having the committee? So, I just kind of wanted a little bit more discussion on that as far as where everybody else stood on that.
I agree with you on that. I think if they do it and bring it to us and propose it, I don't think, it's like any other committee we're on.
Yeah, I just want guidance on that. We traditionally, if something like this comes up, like job descriptions, it's not an emergency situation, then we would put that in, put that aside. The policy committee, unless there's an emergency come up, which we can call a committee meeting anytime, but unless it's an emergency, typically twice a year when the KSB updates come out, we get the policies that have come up during that time and also the KASB updates. We meet together, we discuss them, and anything that comes out of those discussions, just like all of our other committees, would move on to the board. So I just wanted to, if that's the way the board still wants to do it with that committee, or if there needs to be changes in that to make things flow better.
Any other thoughts?
So I'm confused actually. So when the committee looks at something and brings it to us, we're supposed to just say, okay,
Not
No,
necessarily.
we bring it for discussion with a recommendation though.
and
The,
so what do we do with all of the policies that are in our policy book that we don't follow? And I think it's because partly people don't know what's in the policy book, because when I asked Adam and told him about the job description, and I said, it's a policy, Adam, your reply to me was, I don't know what you're talking about, have a good evening. Well, that came back to me pretty snotty.
that is actually not what I was replying to, so, but we can discuss that privately.
Well, you know, if I got those two things confused, it's the same thing, because in the other issue, you said the negotiated agreement says, and the negotiated agreement doesn't say that. So, I mean, we need to know our agreement.
About people
We need to
needing
know our
approved
policy
before
book,
break.
And we need to know what our agreements say.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you on any of that, Pat, but right now we're talking, the item on the discussion items is policy committee. Do we wanna keep a policy committee intact to perform that function, or do we wanna push all that to the board? And let the board deal with it as a whole, so the board will get, I don't know, you got the most recent printed copy of it, how many pages is it?
It's a lot, but you know, I just always I'm kind of a weirdo. I've always read the negotiated agreements in the policy book. I think it's called a board policy, so I think the board, it's just like when we changed, the board goals, you know, we said they really weren't our goals necessarily. So, it's the same thing with board policy.
Well, I would agree with that, but, I mean, we've got a facilities committee too, and the facilities are the district's facilities, which we're all in charge of, but we have a committee that still makes recommendations.
Right.
So,
Well, it's like
very
I'm
similar.
I'm on the restructuring committee, and then I was told it hadn't really been completely, that committee hasn't really been completely, put together yet.
Right.
Which is strange because we held a lot of restructuring meetings.
Right.
And for 3 or 4 months, we've been at a standstill. And honestly, the public wants to know what's going on. We had all these meetings,
Okay,
people were saying this
but
and that.
again, Pat, we're talking about the policy
Communication.
committee.
I know, I'm saying that. There's been no
You're not
communication,
talking
so-
about the policy committee. This discussion item should be nothing
We have to,
nothing other than the policy committee.
we have to stay on topic as far as what we posted on the agenda, Pat. I mean, that's the whole reason we
So
posted
that's
the
what I'm
agenda.
saying. Yeah, it's a board policy.
You were just
so-
talking about a
I think
restructuring
it is.
committee. What's that have to do with the policy committee?
Because there's things, if you read the handbook, the policy book, there's things in there that talk about committees.
Okay. So, what's your thought on the committees? Do we wanna keep having committees, policy committees, or would you like to see the board do it? What are you thinking, Pat?
Well, my problem basically is there's so many things we don't follow. And so that's 2 people sitting down and saying, let's change this or that. It's just like right now, we've had a lengthy discussion on one policy.
That's good.
So, yeah, that's really good. It is good. So, I don't know.
So the policy committee only meets twice a year.
They can
Basically,
meet, they can.
That's
meet.
what I'm saying, so they can, so it's kind of like the facility committee, we meet more than just twice a year, so since you got 2 board members on the policy committee, you guys can meet whenever you want to, especially Pat, when you're saying that there's some policies that aren't complete and stuff, and then that way you and the other board member can get together and then bring it back to the board for recommendations, because there's a lot of policies that I don't think the board as a whole needs to go over, but whichever direction, the board needs to be informed, but I think if you go to the committee more than just twice a year and meet maybe once a month or something and pick out the policies that you have concerns on and then bring back recommendations to the board, would that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds okay, because we meet twice a year, it sounds like to me, when KASB
Right.
tells us there are these changes. And that's fine, because like you said, they are state change mandates, or they are this or that we have to do. But we need to look at the other things.
Right, and I think that's why you have the committee, because it would take a long time for every board member to get together and go over, it could take hours. And I think that's the reason you have a committee.
Follow what's in this policy book, or we make changes.
Right, and that's what
What is this
the policy committee would do, would
So,
bring recommendations back to the board.
I'm fine with that, but I just think we should meet more than. when the
Right.
state-
And you're on the
State
policy
gets the
committee, so you can make that
It's not even the
decision.
state. You know, it's not even the state, it's KASB, which is an organization
Sure,
we don't even have to belong to.
sure.
Right,
And at one time, 20 years ago, when I was on the school board, there were 2 years that we didn't belong to KASB. We did not have the money.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
$10,000 or $12,000, you know, your dues are. I don't know what they are, but I know I think it's at least $10,000.
Yeah.
At that time, we had no money, so we didn't belong, and we didn't skip a beat. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guarantee there's probably policies that needed addressed then, so just like there is today. So I think Chris is on the right track of the policy committee, get together, review policies, find the ones that are, there may be some discrepancies in, or just need a little modification. Bring them to the board for discussion, not necessarily for us to vote on.
Sounds like a work session.
Yeah.
Thing.
Well, like, it could be a work session, or it could just be bringing a policy or two to a discussion item, and then that gives the board a chance to think about it, review it, and then we can make a vote on it or recommendation on it at the next board meeting, because most of this stuff isn't emergent, it doesn't have to be dealt with immediately that night. We need to do a little scouring of the policy, and that happens over time.
Well, I suppose we could try, during the meetings, but I think, let's try and see what gets accomplished and how much we can get through.
Good.
I'm
Sounds
okay with
good.
trying that. But I think it might come to where we do just need a work session.
Okay.
So let's try that for a while and meet more than, what the suggested meeting time is.
So I don't think we need necessarily a motion on this, we just need a little
No.
consensus from the board that we do wanna keep a policy committee intact and have them review.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that kinda, everybody on the same page?
Yeah.
Pat, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it in discussion items, so the only other thing is a quick executive session.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session to include Adam Hatfield, the administrative team, to discuss non-elected personnel for 10 minutes. The regular meeting will resume at 6:40 p.m.
Got a motion? Got a second? We'll need a roll call.
Chris Buckman,
yes.
Brandon Earl,
Yes.
Andrea Kreifels,
Yes.
Jason Newberry,
Yes.
Deanna Garber,
Yes.
Tom Henning,
Yes.
Pat Zika.
Yes.
Okay, we gonna go down the hall, or we're gonna
We can just stay in there. I
stay in
think.
here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I got to leave.
I mean, it's just that, it's just a feeling.
Okay,
Then,
we are back in open session. No action was taken. There's no other business to the board. We are adjourned.
No, we're not.
Oh,
We have
we're
to
not?
actually vote.
Oh, yep, my bad. Thank you, Tom. We do have a consent agenda on the agenda next, so. Guess we normally read the consent agenda and then.
Yes, this evening, make a recommendation that we move that consent agenda to the June meeting, and continue work on that. We usually do that in regular meetings, and so we'd like that to be in the minutes of the regular meeting instead of the special meeting.
I think the way to make this flow, I think we have to actually make a motion to approve the consent agenda and everybody has to, we can't amend the meeting.
I just had a question about it. Is it gonna stop the hiring of these people? Like,
We continue regular business,
okay.
yeah.
So what? I don't know that I wanna approve the consent agenda for
Well,
final vote.
No, we don't approve it, we
you don't
actually,
approve it, you just say
I make a motion, someone seconds. and
Somebody
then
seconds it
Okay.
for the approval
I
and
would
everybody
be
says
good for
no.
that.
I make,
I make a motion to not approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
I don't know if I've ever heard that motion made.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, that's awesome. No, that's awesome. Okay, all those in favor,
Roll
we'll
call.
actually, and
Roll
she's
call.
not with us
She's
not.
anymore, so we're gonna just do a voice vote, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. I guess that was a approval to
Not
disapprove
approve the consent
the
agenda.
consent agenda. And now, if there's no other business to report,
We can't have any other business because it's
True.
a special meeting,
Right.
so.
we are adjourned. Sorry for the confusion on that, guys.
It's alright.
It was just a miscommunication.
Yeah, you're making me hungry, but it's not.
This one was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
You open that door, I don't do the training.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to dig.
Yes.
Deanna came in to
Sorry.
save on.
I even told Jason,
Well,
I
he
said,
said something to me, I'm like, did I say it wrong?
Never heard that before.
I don't think I'm gonna get done in time. And then Jason's like, that's okay, I'll watch.